welcome to another episode of the Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. Of course, we know that the Indiana Fever came out on Saturday and took down the previously undefeated New York Liberty, the defending champs. We know that that was Caitlin Clark's first game back from injury, hadn't played for several games, came out and put on a show, came back with a vengeance. All you could do is say, oh my goodness, she's back, but she's back better, it seems, than when she left. Well, you hear people talk about Caitlin Clark's talent. You hear people talk about the talent of this team. On paper, you look at the names and you go, oh my goodness, these are players who have done something in their careers. With Caitlin, we talk about the basketball IQ, we talk about the logo threes, we talk about the pinpoint passes. And again, when we talk about the team, we talk about a collection of people who, on paper, look really good. Of course, it's got to come together on the court for sure, but you can't deny what these team members have done. All the things we talk about as it relates to Caitlin Clark and this team. One of the things that we really don't hear people talk about with this team is how great their defense is. And the reason we don't hear people talk about that is because this team is certainly not known for great defense, at least since I've been paying attention after coming back to the league. In fact, this team was second to the bottom in defense. So imagine my surprise when I watched the post-game interview that the New York Liberty had, and their comments were so much about, hold on to your hat, Indiana's defense. Now, if you were watching the game, you know that the defense was much better in this last game. But again, I just have to go my mouth wide open because they were commenting in the post game about how Indiana gave them fits on the defensive end, which of course we knew was a focus of this team, was a focus of this coaching staff going into this season. And the New York Liberty felt that. So I have to take a moment and let you watch and hear some of those comments about Indiana's, yes, defense. So I'm going to go over to YouTube, to a YouTube account called the 3-Point Conversion. And I'm going to show you, I think, 3 snippets of this conversation about, yes, Indiana's, yes, defense.
Yeah, look, obviously, we had to rely on these 2 players here, and we didn't get to the rim. Early in the game we did. I think we had about 32 points in the paint in the first half, and we didn't get as many open ones as we did in the second half, and that's on the coaching staff. We've got to make it a little bit easier for them in that regard. But they're switching. They were very disruptive. They were very physical, and we've got to be a better job at executing that.
So you heard there Coach Sandy Brondello talking about how the Fever's defense, their decision to switch on defense caused trouble for them. And as soon as she mentioned their switching on defense, you saw Breanna Stewart nodding her head because she recognizes too that it was a problem for them. So just go back to her just kind of nodding her head. Yep, defense was a problem.
They're switching. They were very disruptive. They were very
their head shaking, right?
They're switching. They were very disruptive. They were very physical, and we've got to.
They're switching and how physical they were. It's not the narrative that a lot of people push out there about how weak and how soft this player is or that player is. Their switching was obviously the plan going into the game. And it's got Breanna nodding her head. So there's that one part, talking about how good that defensive tactic was. And we're going to go a little further, hear a little bit more about, yes, Indiana's defense.
I mean, individually, I think just making better reads off the switches. They made it really difficult because they were just like, there was just constantly somebody there, and trying to find an opening to get downhill or to find somebody else.
Breanna Stewart crediting Indiana Fever's defense. Again, their switching caused a problem. I'm going to show you footage of the switching here in the moment, what they're talking about. But yeah, their switching caused a problem. They couldn't get anything going. They couldn't find any openings. They couldn't get downhill. There was always somebody there. Now, again, this is not what we generally hear about the Indiana Fever. We're usually saying, guys, you got to bring the or shall I say gals for the politically correct. You've got to bring the defense. You've got to not have them go straight down the middle. This can't be like the Red Sea experience, right? Where it's just wide open. And Breanna Stewart of the New York Liberty, defending champs, previously undefeated, is telling you that they're switching their defensive plan and their execution caused nightmares for this team, and they could not get what they wanted to get. Somebody was always there. Now let's watch one more piece of this in which they're going to address what Indiana changed during the course of the game that caused them trouble.
And then there's that 19-0 run where it just felt like Indiana was dictating what you guys were able to get from a shot perspective. What did they change in terms of aggressiveness, in terms of coverages that took you guys out of your groove a bit there?
Yeah, I mean, I think they switched obviously a lot the entirety of the game, but they just plugged holes and plugged gaps and, made it really difficult to get downhill and into the paint. We got to the free throw line well. I think continuing to hit shots. I mean, obviously it's hard to win a game shooting 20% from the 3-point line. So we didn't shoot the ball well. We know we're really capable of being able to knock down the three, and when we do that, it opens up the paint. So I think
had to share that with you. I'm excited for the win, excited for Caitlin Clark coming back and in the manner in which she came back, excited for how the team looked so much better, got over 100, and it was quite a fun game to see, as well as getting the victory. But I really take extra joy in the kind of defense that they played. Never before that I recall, since I've been back watching this game, have I ever heard a team go into the post game and question after question after question came back to Indiana's defense. If anything, we're saying, oh my goodness, their defense needs to improve. For them to come to this post game and talk about defense, that they couldn't get what they wanted to get. And she talked about their shots not falling in this, during this interview. Some of that, of course, sometimes shots just don't fall, but a lot of that can be because there's so much defensive pressure being applied to you that your legs are not underneath you right, and you're just distracted and disrupted. And so I'm proud of this team because they brought the defense, and they got this New York Liberty team talking about it after the game. They need to build on that. So great improvement in the conversation about Indiana. So I'm just going to show you a really quick piece of the Indiana playing defense on the defensive side of the ball, and the switching that you see taking place, and how they make it really hard for New York, and then how that ends up going well for them on the offensive end. No sound here other than my voice. So I'm going to show this to you and stop along the way. Just me talking through what they're talking about New York when they talk about the switching. So you have Breanna Stewart bringing the ball up the floor. Sophie's on her. And then boom, you see right here, Sabrina Ionescu sets the screen on Sophie. So what does Lexi do? Lexi just switches. So now they switch so that she's right there. And then now she's on her. So Breanna Stewart gives the ball up. She gets the ball over. I believe that's Sabali. When you have Aaliyah Boston on her. And then she gets the ball to Cloud. And now she's going to set a screen for Cloud. Now in this case, Kelsey Mitchell doesn't switch. Kelsey Mitchell goes through the screen. She gets on the bottom of the screen. She goes under the screen. But then when Sabali sets another screen, now they just switch. And so now you got Aaliyah Boston there. So all she can do is get it back. Now she's got little Kelsey Mitchell on her. She dribbles a little bit, gets it back to Breanna Stewart. And they're disrupted. And they've got time that they've lost off the shot clock. Back to Cloud, who says, well, I'll just take the shot. Caitlin with the rebound. Now they can run. Gets it to Lexi, gets it to Aaliyah, and gets the points. And this is what I've been talking about when I say, for everyone who's saying we've got to play fast, we've got to run. And we keep trying to express that you can't run like you want to run unless you get stops. Their defense was so good down on that end, had them totally disrupted. Then they put up a shot because you're wearing down that shot clock. They get a shot, not the best shot that they wanted to get. We get the rebound, Caitlin does, and then she's able to push the ball up the floor. And then in transition, what do you get? Caitlin to Lexi to Aaliyah to 2 points. That's your defense to offense that this team has to have to be most successful. It works best when you're playing good defense, and it works stellarly when there's Caitlin on the floor helping them make the decisions, and then Lexi makes the extra pass. It's defense to instant offense, and that's what you want with this team. I just want to show you how Caitlin was helping on defense here. The Liberty talked about the switching that was taking place, but they were also talking about how they could not find a gap. They could not find a hole to get downhill. And you got to watch how Caitlin helps do that. So originally here, as I said, when Breanna Stewart passes that ball and Aaliyah's on ball, they don't switch first. Kelsey goes on the bottom of the screen, and she meets Natasha Cloud on the other side. But then Sabali sets another screen. Now it's on the second screen that you see the switch. But Aaliyah drops down. But look at Caitlin. Caitlin came from over here, and she just, all she has to do is sort of hedge, right? She just takes that step to help to stop the drive there from Cloud until Aaliyah Boston can be there. And then Caitlin recovers, right? So that is extremely helpful. They screen, they switch, and still Caitlin says, I'm right here to help. And then she can recover because she's now, her man is now only one pass away from the ball here. So she's got to get back. And then that's all they needed. Then it's just a wrap from there. But I just wanted to point out how even the person not involved in the screening or the switching is also huge. And that was huge from Caitlin. So I'm going to play it through again without stopping you. And I want you to watch how they're switching and how that messes things up for New York and works really well for Indiana. Now, there were times throughout this game, I was saying this mismatch, because when you switch, you know, a lot of people want you to, sometimes people want you to switch. They want you to switch because now you've got a mismatch. You've got, as I saw a few times in this game, you got a Kelsey Mitchell on trying to guard a Breanna Stewart. But hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it was working for Indiana, as you just heard from Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu and Coach Sandy Brondello. And again, whoever has seen this team being praised because of their defense. Well, New York didn't want to praise them, but they had to acknowledge that Indiana's game plan caused them problems, because obviously that was the decision going into the game, that we're going to switch. And they switched for a majority of the game, according to Sabrina Ionescu, I believe that was. So I just had to shout out the Fever, because the improvements are there when other teams are not just talking about your logo threes, not just talking about your passing, not just talking about the accolades of the people on your team and the accomplishments they've made over the years, but they're talking about your defense. And if they're talking about defense, that means you're playing Improved defense, which as you saw right there, leads to offense with this team, particularly when Caitlin Clark is back in uniform. I will catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundantly.